Greetings. Let's get this out of the way. We have the 800-pound gorilla in the room is talking about the 2020 elections. And there are people who are happy and people who are mad on both sides, believe it or not. And here's the thing. If you were a good leader, if you're a good leader, you have already protected yourself and your employees and your office from the partisanship that both sides showed. Sure, when we're not at work, we may, get around people who we agree with and talk about certain things. Every once in a while around people we disagree with, and we talk about things, and we fuss, and we fight, and we yell, and we exclaim good things. But I've always believed that you need to keep that stuff out of the workplace. I guess I was lucky in the fact that I worked in hospitals, and they're pretty big, and it doesn't mean that there aren't certain people who might have a bias towards one thing or another, but when it comes to both politics and religion, we kept it out of the office. We just did. Now, what's funny is that when I was consulting at a hospital down in Memphis, I was with the Baptist hospitals. I mean, that's what they were. And in town, you had the Catholic hospitals and you had the Methodist hospitals. And I think there was one Jewish hospital, and St. Jude's was there, the children's hospital. So it was very interesting how they did that, because you don't really have a lot of that. In New York State, you have a lot of that in the city, New York City, but you don't have that everywhere else. You just basically have community hospitals. Even here in Syracuse, for instance, we have 3 main hospitals. We have the Catholic hospital, we have the state hospital, and then we have the city hospital. And, that's pretty much how that is. It's no one thing. You don't have the political things involved, and you don't talk about those things at work. Even at the Catholic hospital, they have Jewish people who go in the Catholic hospital. And one of the things that I heard happens in the Catholic hospital is sometimes if you have the Jewish patients, they have a cross in every single room, and the Jewish patients are allowed to ask for the cross to either be removed or put behind them so they don't have to look at it. That's interesting, and they do it. Why? Because in hospitals, it's not about what religion you are or anything else. You're a patient. We're going to acquiesce to your needs so that you can feel better while you are with us. So that's how that works in healthcare. It should work like that in every business. And I think that you work to establish certain rules and then you stick by them. For instance, when I got to my last hospital as a full-time employee, it was around the time of the O.J. Simpson trial. And all I had to do was basically listen to certain people to know, okay, some of these people aren't going to believe things the same way I do. But I just said, you know what? We're going to try to keep this out of the office. We're not going to dig into politics. We're not going to talk about religion. Let's just see if we can keep it all out of there. And we did until the day of the verdict, when I cheered and a couple other people cheered and a couple other people were upset. Okay, that one was tough to deal with. But the thing is, we hadn't talked about it leading up to that. And probably about 5 minutes after the verdict, we didn't talk about it again. We didn't talk about politics in 1996 when Clinton ran against Dole. And we didn't talk about politics in 2020 when Bush ran against, Gore. And we didn't talk about what happened with the hanging chads that probably people now, if you mention that to them, they say, what is that? But we didn't talk about it. We didn't talk about it because that was going to be our rule. We still had to work with each other. We knew what the community basically was. I didn't live in the community, but everyone else kind of lived in the community. And we just knew that it didn't matter once we were inside the building. We were all together for the benefit of our facility. We were all together for the benefit of our customers, which are the patients and their family members. And that's just how it had to be. We kept all of that stuff out of there. And I'll tell you the truth, it wasn't just my department, even though I basically said, okay, we're not going to talk about any of this at work. It's just not going to be a discussion. But other departments did the exact same thing. It wasn't a CEO who basically said, we're not going to do this. It wasn't anyone in the C-suite. it was basically all of us together. We had this, connection with each other, and we basically said, we're just not going to go there. Outside of work may have been a different story, but, I was bowling back then, and I didn't listen to anything any of those guys said. Matter of fact, when I was at the bowling alley, I read all the time. So they thought I was nuts anyway. That was just my thing. But I think that if you were a leader of people, no matter what the environment, you need to set certain rules and boundaries and stick by them. You can't go in supporting one candidate and then being mad at somebody who works for you who may not support that candidate, and you can't shut them down. You just can't do it. Now, you can't keep everything out of office. For instance, if you have one minority, you're going to have an issue. If you have just one woman or one man, you might end up having issues. That's stuff that you have to deal with. But that's not political. It's not religious. If you have Muslims in your office, you make it religious because you hired them, and you should hire them. There should never be any discrimination along that lines. But once you're in the office, it can't be there. As a matter of fact, when I was consulting in Memphis, there was one guy who had put something on his cubicle, because we all had cubicles, and they made him take it down because they said, yes, we're Baptist Hospital, part of the Baptist Hospital system, but we're not having any of this. It's got to go. And he took it down. He didn't want to, but he did. And I applauded upper management for that. I said, that's great leadership right there. We're not going to have any of that stuff. Don't put any of that up there. Don't put it in your cubicle. You want to put pictures up, put pictures of your family up. And, of course, they did allow people to put crosses if that's what they wanted because, like I said, it's Baptist Hospital. You're in the South. A whole lot of Baptist churches down in the South. So that's what I wanted to talk about. Like I said, this is ending up to be kind of ugly after the election. I mean, this is what is this, 2 weeks after the election? And there's just certain people on both sides who are just really clamoring. I stressed for 3 weeks leading up to the thing. I mean, leading up to it and then the first week after because we didn't have any answers. I'm not stressing anymore. But I'm also basically working from home, so it's nothing that I had to really deal with anybody else. So anyway, that's my thought. Let me know your thoughts. Do you believe that you should keep politics and religion out of the office? And if you're a leader, do you believe you have the right to establish certain policies within the office that say that you're not going to address certain topics during the workday? Let me know your thoughts. My name is Mitch Mitchell. I hope you have a wonderful week.